G'day everyone, and welcome to episode number 70 of the Ohazas podcast. And this is our second time that we're doing a video version on YouTube as well. A few topics today, as always, with word of the day at the end of the episode, so make sure you hang around for that till the end. And anyway, well, let's get started. Let's go. Okay, so first topic today, we're going to quickly touch on stationery stores and the heaven that they are for all the people who love stationery like I do in Japan. I put out a poll last week on X and results were not all that surprising. We had Hands and Loft get first place and second place, and third place was Maruzen, and there were also some local recommendations which were only available in those respective prefectures. So yeah, it was interesting to see though. There were about, I think, over less than about 50, up to about 50 respondents, I think it was. And it's just nice to see that there are so many people who love stationery as much as I do. And I know for a fact you're all out there. We all love our stationery fix in Japan, and we're blessed with a lot of variety when it comes to like notebooks and pens and little gadgets and things. One little really nice little thing that I love, which I'll put up here in a second. This is the first time I'm doing this, so excuse me if I don't get this right, but something should appear here about now. And these are called book darts, and I first found these over 10 years ago I think it was in a bookstore in Japan. And I think they're from the States. We'll probably find out when we put it up here. But I had never seen them before in Australia. But as soon as I saw them, I was like, you know what, they're absolutely perfect. They let you not only see what page you were on when you left your book, but also the location on the page, which is really, really handy if you're sort of like, if you get a phone call midway through a page and you want to come back to the same line that you were at when you left. That's a fantastic little item. And also, they've got a very, very thin profile, so they don't stand out like bookmarks do, and they also don't fall out because they clip onto the page itself. So, fantastic little gift idea if you're looking for something, or even for yourself, and keep that that word gift or reward in mind, because that's linked to our word of the day at the end of the episode. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about something a little bit serious. And this is something that comes up quite often in the gaijin sphere over here in Japan, and that is isolation and loneliness. And there's actually a couple of articles recently going around, not only for the foreign community here, but also for Japanese. There's a lot of local people here as well who suffer from the same thing, but I think it's for different reasons, so I won't go into that in this episode, but I will touch on this feeling of loneliness or isolation that we get here in Japan as foreigners, because I think it affects a lot of us out here. And if you're out there not in Japan yet, but you're thinking of coming over, I hope this information is of use to you, because it's best to come here prepared for this kind of thing. So first I'm going to sort of just go over what these feelings are. It's a little bit like, in my situation, I think it felt a bit like homesickness, which I first experienced when I came here back in the late 90s on a working holiday visa. I started feeling a bit homesick after about 2 to 3 months of being here. And it went away in about a week or so, and it kind of came and went, maybe every couple of months. And eventually it kind of went away. And then I came back to Japan about 12 years ago. It's actually my Japan anniversary soon, at the end of this month. And even though I've been here for over 10 years on this particular occasion, I still get these feelings of, I wish I could just go back to Australia and hang out with my friends and family at the click of my fingers, and it's something that you realise soon enough that you can't do. It's something you have to live with. And that's something I want to touch on briefly, is not just for this particular situation or particular condition regarding isolation and loneliness, but with many things in life I've found as I've aged, is that accepting things is a lot healthier and a lot more productive than fighting things. And obviously there are times when you do need to fight for something, but I'm talking about things that can't be changed. So it's important to recognize what can and can't be changed first. If it's something that can be changed, by all means, fight for it, be motivated. These are all very healthy things, and that's why we're here. We're here to strive to do our best to achieve the things that we want to achieve. And so that's a healthy thing. But for example, how I mentioned earlier, being able to go home at the click of your fingers, you have to accept that that's just not possible. No matter how hard you fight that feeling, no matter how hard you try, you can't wish it away. It's there to stay. And in order to go back home and spend time with your family and friends, you will need to book a plane ticket and make plans and go. So this is one example of accepting a situation that I just thought I'd bring up in this episode. By the way, this is not something I want to fully cover in just one episode, because I think it's such a big topic that perhaps we can split this up into various kind of themes or like subtopics, and discuss what kind of things help certain people, because I think there are different people, different types of people who experience this in different ways, and I think different people also handle this, the sort of feelings. They process the feelings and they deal with the feelings in different ways as well. By all means, I mean, what's your experience with this feeling of isolation? Perhaps maybe you don't feel it at all, or maybe you feel it a lot, or a little bit like me. So, I mean, when it hits me quite hard, to be honest, but it doesn't last forever. It's usually like for a day or so, and then I get back into the swing of things and things are fine. But I'd love to hear from you guys, my listeners. Please, drop a comment down below and let me know how you feel when you go through these periods of isolation or loneliness. And I think, again, I can't speak for everyone, so I'm just going to say what my personal take is on it. But it's kind of like when you feel like there's a lack of people who can relate to you, or vice versa, and lacking people who you can connect with on a deeper level. And I think my own observation of this, especially last weekend, it was I was going through something on the weekend, and I was feeling quite down about this, and I was asking myself, what is it that I seek? What do I want? What kind of people would help? What kind of people would I want around me to make me feel better about this situation? Or what could I change? And I sort of thought about that for a while. And I reached some kind of a conclusion, I guess, for now. And that was that it didn't really matter where the person was from. A long time ago, I used to have this idea that I needed more Australian friends in order to feel that connection. And to be honest, I don't, it's not the case. And I realized after a while that it doesn't matter if they're Australian or not, or Japanese or not, or whatever. It's whether or not that person can understand what you're talking about. And I'm not just talking on a linguistic level, I'm talking on an actual emotional level. You need to speak to people who can understand what you've been through. Perhaps they've lived overseas as well. Perhaps they've also felt that feeling of isolation or loneliness. Or maybe they have a loved one who has gone through similar things and things like that. So it's a big topic, and, there's different ways of dealing with it. I think there are lots of people who go out and take on hobbies to take their mind off this kind of thing. There are people, unfortunately, who turn to things like alcohol, and which we all know is not very productive or healthy. And I've been there. I've gone out drinking and stuff to sort of deal with things. And it's obviously not a long-term solution that you want to pursue. If you are in the middle of that, I totally understand, and I'm not going to judge. But you might want to consider not pursuing that for very long, because it can be very damaging to your health. Apart from that, I think that's everything I wanted to cover on the topic. But the other day, well, it was yesterday actually, we had a little Spaces, it's called Spaces on the X platform. It's where you can have like an audio-based meetup with other people. And a bunch of us Japan creators, Japan creative, what do you call them? Japan creatives or Japan creators. We all got together and we had this little audio meetup on X. And yeah, that was really interesting. And a couple of us spoke about that phenomenon and how, how it happened, like the difference between living in the countryside and the city. And ironically, living in the city where there's actually more people, a few of us agreed that it's more common for people to feel loneliness and isolation when they're in the city, because in the countryside you actually have more closely knit communities and things like that, and that can actually, there's a lot of people, including myself, who don't really like that all the time, but you actually find that you want it or you need it after a while. The thing is, I think there is hope. You can actually have that in the city, but you do need to create and work on creating your own community and being part of that community and contributing to society as well. So there are ways to deal with this, and these are things I suppose I will delve into, and we'll cover these things in future episodes on the show. Okay, and so we're going to move on to the next topic, and it's something that comes up every now and then, and that is the emergency backpack situation. The emergency backpack that people suggest you have ready just in case an earthquake strikes in Japan or a tsunami or something like that. You'll actually get a warning on the TV that tells you to evacuate your home. And in such cases, you will actually, you don't have to, but it's highly recommended that you have a backpack ready full of supplies, things like water, some food, perhaps some tissues, and some maybe plastic bags, things that will help you to get by for a day or two at the very least, if not longer. So there's two sort of things that you want to have ready, but today I'm going to sort of focus on the backpack thing. But just very quickly, very briefly, first thing you want to have is sort of extra food in the pantry, extra bottles of water. So in my case, I've got a few 2-liter bottles of water in my sort of kitchen, and I have some extra pieces of boxes of food and things like that. But apart from that, and what we're going to focus on today on the podcast is the backpack. Now, backpack, the important thing is it's got to be light enough for you to run out your door with. So you can't have I've seen people get bags and suitcases ready, and it's not practical to run out your door with a 35-kilo suitcase, especially when the roads are damaged and there's telegraph poles, there's things sort of scattered around on the footpath. So you really want to think about how mobile your backpack is, and you want it to be, obviously you can't avoid it from being too heavy, because there will be water and stuff in there. So it's going to weigh, I think it's reasonable to expect your bag to weigh at least around between 4 and 5 kilos. So it's not light, but it does need to be realistic. You can't have like a 20-kilo backpack, right? For most of us, I think that's the case. So yeah, in my backpack, I just want to share what I have, and I also want to share a little tip which I thought of, and I also got people's opinion on that on X, and I want to share the feedback on that as well. So what I have in my backpack is a 2-liter bottle of water. I have a couple of soy joys, which is just like protein bar type things, and some Calorie Mate, which again, this is sort of like emergency or snack food type of things, which they contain carbohydrates mostly, but I think there's a little tiny bit of protein in there as well. And it's also got some like multivitamin type stuff in there as well. And what else have I got in there? I've got a couple of sachets of curry, and I've also got some sachets of tuna. And I actually didn't know about the tuna sachets until I went shopping for my emergency stuff the other day. And usually you buy cans of tuna, well, the weight of the can is kind of a waste in a backpack, I thought. And so I saw these tuna sachets, which I'd never seen before. And so I'm just checking if we're still recording. I'm still new to this video thing, so please forgive me if my eyes stray to the side sometimes, so I can check my video and my audio feeds. But yeah, so you can get these tuna sachets now, and they're just in plastic sachets, and so they save space because they're flat, and they're also lighter because there's no tin. So I got about 6 of those, I think it was, and that was that. And what else did I put in there? Oh yeah, I put some packets of pocket tissues in there, because tissues are important. Sanitary reasons, and just you never know what's going to happen. Like you might cut yourself, you might need to close it up, that kind of thing. I threw a couple of band-aids in for good measure, and I also put in a few plastic bags as well, because they're always handy in an emergency situation. So that's my backpack, and the little tip I wanted to share with you about that is the expiry date management. So it's something you really need to think about. You don't want to get stuck in an emergency and then only to find out that all of your food has gone off, because obviously that's not ideal. So I actually set up little calendar reminders in my Google Calendar, and they will go off 1 month before the expiry dates. And so I guess I'll be eating a lot of curry and tuna and that kind of thing about leading up to that time of expiry. So that's the tip I wanted to share. The feedback I got on that is people just said, like, you can just have a bunch of stuff and then have a little check sheet or something on your pantry showing the expiry dates and things like that. Or you could just make it a regular thing. You could say, like, there's this thing called koromogae, which I have introduced as word of the day on a previous episode, which I'll put over here. And so when you do koromogae, that's when you change your wardrobe for the different seasons. And it happens usually twice a year for the cooler and warmer months. And you might just want to make it a habit to change your food when you do koromogae. And food in general, I find those packaged items tend to last about 6 months on average, 6 to like 9 months, sometimes a year. So I think it's pretty safe to say if you were to go shopping at koromogae season, you might not need to even think about writing the dates down, as long as you check them, obviously. But yeah, that's a little tip that I think might help you as well to prepare for disasters and things like that. Okay, that brings us to the Word of the Day segment of our episode. And as always, our Word of the Day words are connected to one of the stories that we've spoken about during the podcast. And so today's Word of the Day is actually gohobi. Gohobi is reward, and it's often used, like in English, when you've been doing something really well or hard, like you've been working hard, you've been making a lot of effort. Maybe you've been studying hard for an exam for your JLPT or something like that. Maybe you've had a long week at work and you need to buy something, you need a bit of retail therapy. In those situations, the word gohobi is your go-to word. So if you go to the stationery store, and the reason I brought this up, by the way, it is connected to the stationery store, because I usually go to the stationery store when I want to get myself a little reward like that. So my gohobis are usually things like, nice notebooks or pens or a book or something like that. So yeah, that's today's word of the day, gohobi. As always, I'll be putting that on X with a little graphic card which has the word and an explanation in English. The word is always written in 3 scripts. I usually put it up in the kanji if it's available, the hiragana, Japanese reading in hiragana, and also the English kind of pronunciation in romaji in using English alphabet. So that's all for today's episode, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you at the next episode. Bye for now.